Hi, this is Keith Cutter with EMFRemedy.com. Let's have a conversation about EMF Challenge Facilities. What is an EMF Challenge Facility? In episode number 101 of my premium audio podcast available on SuperCast, I discussed this concept in full and also published an essay on this topic in my Substack work. It is what I refer to as my strategic initiative number one. This is the single most important thing that I need to be working on to, help facilitate an incredible breakthrough. I think this is the way we move ahead. I think this is a game changer, and I think this, guys, is how we can win. So what is an EMF Challenge Facility in a nutshell? There are a multitude of short-term vacation rentals available around the world today. Now, a portion of those, not all of those, not the majority of those, a tiny portion of those are suitable for conversion to an EMF Challenge Facility, an exclusion facility, where what we do is we exclude synthetic EMF. That will offer people who would like to stay in these facilities the opportunity, perhaps for many of them, for the first time in their entire lives, to live for a few days or a couple of weeks apart from synthetic EMF exposure. It is going to be incredible. Providentially, I have a friend, also a client. He has a short-term vacation rental, and we're well on the way towards converting that short-term vacation rental to an EMF Challenge Facility. In fact, our first ever Foundations in EMF Assessment class is going to be taught next month. And guess what? It's going to be taught at that EMF exclusion facility. I hope you'll enjoy this concept and this conversation that I had recently with Daniel Vasku. Here we go. And I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but that was what inspired me to come up with my strategic initiative number one, which was EMF Challenge Facilities. So if you suspect that you are intolerant of wheat, some people will stop eating wheat and find out if they get better. You know, it isn't rocket science. And that's a type of a medical challenge. There's another medical challenge where you deliberately give somebody something. I don't know if they still do it this way, but a long time ago, I had a friend who thought she might be becoming diabetic. And so she told me she went in and they made her drink this terrible sugary solution. And then they looked at her blood sugar later and decided whether she was or she wasn't. So that would have been, like I say, I don't know if it's the current way of doing it. That would have been a medical challenge, to a provocation study. But my idea was, what if we had facilities? Short-term vacation rentals are a thing. Airbnbs are a thing. And in a few select areas that might be pristine from an EMF perspective, or could be altered to be pristine, what if we had the ability for people to check in, no matter where they lived, to be able to conveniently drive, 100 kilometers or less, and get to a facility where they could go spend a weekend or a week and see what might happen, not living in a synthetic electromagnetic environment. So there's been a lot of interest in this idea, and I actually have a friend and a client who already has a short-term vacation rental, and he is very interested in, and he understands the risks of synthetic EMF. So he was already in the process of cleaning his whole house up, getting rid of all the wireless, and his house is in a place where there is no cell phone reception. There is one little spot about this big in the kitchen for some reason that picks up a signal. But other than that, can't even get a signal. Anyway, he loves this idea of having a EMF challenge facility. And so he's moving towards that vision. And awesome. I think, how exciting would it be if because there's financial incentive for people who have vacation properties. You could probably get a lot more per night in an EMF challenge facility than you could get just an ordinary night or a week in a vacation home. So and it's a decentralized approach, right? It isn't this kind of centralized, we're going to do one clinic here and in a vast area. No. What if they were all over the place?
Yeah.
I think that it might be a really cool replacement, or at least an adjunct for legal action and advocacy, because I don't think we're getting anywhere anymore with legal action. I think that's a well-guarded front, and the advocacy, telling people this stuff is bad, you get the same reaction that you would from the heroin addict saying, it's bad. So anyway, your thoughts on that? We haven't had a chance to talk to each other about this.
Yeah, I think we've been both approaching this from slightly different angles, but coming to the same point is of I've always been involved in community because I want more people to experience community in the sense of what it means to have more connections with other people that are not necessarily your family or super close friends, that learn how to deal with the land and with good food and habits not just on a physical level, but also on a mental and spiritual level, where, we learn to shed some of the bad habits from society, that the selfishness and the way of going forward. And I've been trying to integrate the EMF part for the last good 5 years and seeing the challenges that come with it, but also the incredible advantage of people actually experiencing it. Because like you said, it's not something we can just tell. You have to feel it yourself. And even the people that think that have that they're convinced that they're not feeling it, if they would enter a challenge facility like you describe it, there could be a click. So yeah, I love the whole decentralized. Let's get it onto that. It would almost need a certification kind of way of how well is this place rated? How good is it doing on the RF? How good is it doing on the AC? And it's also a place that, I think it's absolutely necessary to help people with that. Because if you would just say, go stay somewhere where there's no radiation and see if you feel better, but they're not realizing that their AirPods in their pockets are still radiating them. Well, I spent 3 nights in a tent and I feel just as shitty, so I don't think it's the EMF. It's like, well, did you have actual proper measuring? Do you know that there was no radiation, or that the person in the tent next to you didn't have their 4G going, oh no, but I don't have any reception. Yeah, but your phone is still emitting and your Wi-Fi is still on and your Bluetooth is still on. So there's a lot of education that needs to go around it, and some hard numbers, because especially if it becomes interesting for people, like, oh yeah, we've got EMF free. So how low is EMF free? Oh, well, we've measured it and it's only 200 microwatts, which is way lower than on the street. It's like, yeah, okay, well, yeah. It reminds me of my aha moment after being sick for more than 10 years and knowing that it was EMF. I didn't realize how profoundly big the difference can be by just that last little bit, because I had my space, and then we spoke about it last time, I had my space down to 0.1, and I thought, this is good. And it was only when I was in a 000, when there was really nothing around, that my brain started to be so much clearer, like dramatically,
Exactly.
that I didn't realize. Right. Oh, okay, this is where it's at. That's what drove me to go live in a small caravan on a little patch in a little damp valley, because anything to help me get to that zero state is like worth it, absolutely worth it. So yes, I would love if you can't get more people to experience it.
Yeah, if your brain is not working, you're done. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
The EMF Remedy podcast is a project of EMF Remedy LLC. We'd like to be your trusted guide for achieving a better EMF environment in your home. The contents on this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and are not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professional. It is not intended to be, nor does it constitute healthcare or medical advice. Opinions of guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the EMF Remedy podcast.